are on week 3, and I'm going to go with the quote that I found this week. So you've got me today to kick off, and then John's final quote will be next week. So mine's quite a long quote, so I'm hoping it won't take up the whole video to read it. And I've actually got another quote I want to follow it by as well. So John, you can sit back while I read out.
ISG, but you bringing quotes to the party.
I couldn't help myself. Right, so let me read this one out. So this is from, actually, this is from Linda Queering's book, and I can't remember. I think it might be Beyond Beliefs, but I will put it under the video when I've checked it afterwards. So this is a book where there's lots of Sid quotes in the book, because she spent a lot of time with Sid learning. So there's some beautiful writing by her about what he said. So this is a quote from him. Everyone originally stems from the I, the true self, God, soul, or whatever you wish to call it. This source is pure energy. As you appear to yourself, you're a figment of your own imagination. This source creates all of your senses: love, hate, jealousy, sadness. Totally everything is controlled from this source. And if you ever truly realize this, then you, as you know yourself, will become the controller. At this realization, you will know there is no separation between you and the true energy source. We are as one. You'll realize also that there is no separation between you and anyone else or any other thing on earth, for we are all the same energy. This is what we call the game of life. Your body is nothing but solidified energy, and when you die, the true you is still the same as ever. Just the body ceases to exist. That is, until you choose another. The difficulty in realizing this is the fact that we must face total fear and be willing to give up our body and life as we now see it. When we do this, we find out we haven't given up anything at all. We also realize that we've always known this fact. How beautiful to know that we are fear, we are love, we are hate, we are everything which creates us. And so before I say anything about that, I just want to read the second quote, because I was just flicking through Facebook this morning, as you do. And gosh, I saw this beautiful post by Sarah Priestley. And it would just really, I was like, this is what the quote really reminded me of. And it's just a beautiful piece of writing. So I'll put the link below as well, so people can find her Facebook feed if they want to read more from her. But so the way that I think about it, the way that that comes alive for me is in a way that's much less poetic, right? Is you know, we talked about this actually on our retreat, but the image that comes to me is the metaphor of the book, where what it feels like to me both of those are speaking to is almost like, I don't know if you've watched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, but in that movie, the writing kind of appears on the page.
Yeah.
Right? And so in my mind, that world of form, that world of things that Sarah points to, that Sid points to, all the things in the world of life, right, where we search for fulfillment, and the stories of what we're up to and what's important and what isn't, and that constantly changing story the whole time. And that underneath all those words, underneath all that story, is just the blank page that sits there and handles any and every story. Which I've seen before, but I haven't seen the Half-Blood Prince nature of it, which is that the page is writing the story.
Mm-hmm.
Page and the story are one, right? And the page is constant, and that book has infinity pages on it.
Mm-hmm.
The stories come and go. The idea of us comes and goes. Like, we might last 3 chapters or 10 or 20, and then there's another 10 chapters and another 10 chapters. And who we really are is the book that keeps going for infinity, that was here before the idea of us came, before our chapter started and after our chapter goes. There's a constant. That's what all of those point to for me, is that there's a constant. And then all the change happens on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what Sid's pointing to is how beautiful to know that we are all of it. We don't have to deny the story.
No.
Because without a story, no life, no experience, no this, no tears, no being moved by words, no parents, no car journeys, no kids, no nothing, just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No experience of our own bodies, of having a friend, of having a conversation, of the idea that people will listen and watch this. None of that without the words. Like, how blessed we are to have that the words happen. And to know, before I bumped into this conversation, I didn't know there was a page. I was trying to grab words out of the ether and cling on to them, and because that's all there was, right? This idea about me, or the words about me, I need to cling on to them and get them clearer. And no wonder I lived a life of anxiety. I was trying to cling on to words like I thought were floating in thin air, and catch them and try and bat ones away and have different ones than were written on the page. I didn't know there was a page.
Mm. Well, there's just so rich. This
I know, isn't it gorgeous?
So much to it, and it's like, well, where do you begin? And I suppose for me, just looking at this, what is contained in this paragraph is really the key to our freedom, right? Like, most of us are walking around in life unaware of what this is, of what's going on, of what's happening, of who is doing it, of what we are in relationship to that. And so we do what you're saying. We get so caught up in trying to manipulate what's going on and trying to control it all, and that's fine on some level, but it's really painful when you don't know what's behind it all. And this is speaking to what's behind it all. And you know, I mean, just looking at this, what comes to my mind is that we are this self that is unified, that is in everything, that is formless by nature. And we come into form, and in order to come into form, we have to forget our formless nature. Otherwise we'd be formless, right? So we create this form in our mind. There's this mind-based self that is made up of thoughts that create this sense of self, which we then believe to be true. And we operate as if that is true. You know, well, I am this and I am that, and you're that, and you're this, and blah, blah, blah. And there's this whole idea of everything being separate and different and individuated. And yet all of that is the words on the page. All of that comes from the page. All of it is being lived from the page. And the page is in fact the source of everything that we look for, usually in the words. So we look for our freedom in the words. We look for our well-being in the circumstances. We look for peace by constructing our lives a certain way, all the while forgetting the blank piece of paper is the source of peace. It is peace. It is quiet. It is well-being. It is source for creativity. It is source for decision making. It is source for problem solving. It is what runs our body and our multitude of bodily processes. To wake up to this and know that you're going to forget it, right? Yeah. I kind of like what you said. I can't remember the exact words, they were from Sarah Priestley, but yeah, you're going to forget and forget and forget and forget. It's going to be fresh all the time because you're in form. You're meant to forget.
Yeah.
You're meant to not know all the time. You're meant to live the human experience and get caught in the highs and the lows and the sadness and the joy and the bliss of it all. You're meant to do that. But to do that, knowing underneath it all, everything is perfect. Everything is the page. Everything is connected. Everything is okay. Great. Now you get to enjoy that humanness even more.
Yeah.
Because what makes us not enjoy it is the fact that we've forgotten that underneath the highs and lows of it all is what we seek. It's never really lost. It's never far away.
We think we think there are moments where we've fallen off the book. Free falling, like when we have extreme panic or anxiety or stuff goes wrong in our lives. It's like, no, I've fallen off the book. I need to get back onto the book. Like, what course, what book, what do I need to do to help me get back onto the book? Yeah, back into the story that should be happening. I know there's a story happening out there on the book that's really good, and I'm totally not on it. Like, how do I get back there? How do I get back there? And that's like, no, that's another sentence on the page.
That's it.
And you can't leave the book. It's not possible. There is nothing outside of the book. You cannot ever not be on the book, right? On the page. You can't fall off the sides. But you can be in the middle of the sentence that describes the feeling and tells you that you're falling off the side. But it's just another sentence. It's like it can't ever be. Like, how could these words exist outside of the page?
They can't.
They absolutely can't. Absolutely can't. And I love that, knowing that we'll forget and remember, and we'll have that experience of self and that experience in the world of form, and we'll have the experience of forgetting and trying to change the form so that we can be okay. And all of that's allowed.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of, when we start this journey, we think we're in a game of trying to see through the words on the page so we can see they're an illusion, so we'll never fall for them again. Right? We're never going to fall for the idea that we're totally alone and nobody loves us. That we'll never again fall for the idea that life's shit. That we'll never again not get caught in fear and an anxiety. Right? That if we just can see through this illusory self, then we'll be in bliss the whole time. And if we're not seeing that, something's going wrong and we're a bad person because we haven't done enough personal development. That's all part of the story.
I love that you bring that in. I mean, that's what we do. Most of us come into this understanding having come from personal development.
Yeah.
And personal development is still a go-to. It's still a get somewhere. It's still a change how you feel. It's still a create more in your life. And again, I'm not saying any of that is bad. But again, this is not like that. This is about waking up to the fact that you are still fine, even if you feel bad, even if it looks awful. Like, I mean, one of the things that's been interesting for me as we've gone through this whole lockdown is I'm just like everybody else. You know, I've got things that I wanted to happen this year. I've got desires for my summer holiday, which is not going to be, you know, there's all kinds of things that I wanted a certain way and that haven't gone that way. And I haven't been all like enlightened and zen and happy about all of that. I mean, I've gotten up in my head. I've got annoyed about things. I've even tried to control things and make them go a certain way. Like, I've done all of those things. But there's something going on underneath which was not there before. And that's the page again. It's been like, yeah, you play that game of trying to control things, but you're fine. Oh, you're really angry about X, Y, and Z, but you're fine, right? So there's this anchor point that is solid and foundational that has just meant that even if I'm in my humanness around it all, I know I'm not far. I know I don't actually have to pursue those things that I'm trying to fix in order to experience what I'm really looking for, but I'm still going to do it and still have done it.
Anyway. Yeah.
That's the great,
like, it's like the massive permission slip from God, right? It's like, oh no, I've okayed all of this. It's like, no, permission. Yeah, no permission. What, to run around shouting at my kids and get really annoyed and wish they'd go back to school? Yeah, permission for that too. It's like it's been pre-agreed before it even arrived in your head. Yeah. It's like, so it's like, you're just the recipient of what God has already decided, right? In a way, it's like, and also all the ideas that we're in control of it all. Mm-hmm. Like I remember, I don't know, I think it was from the Pranskys where I really saw this, where I think it was, I saw Linda coaching a client, or George coaching a client with OCD, and just asking the question, like, what makes you think that this is not made of mind? Yeah. When the client was resisting the experience and fighting it and trying to push it away, like it was the devil itself come to visit this awful diagnosis, this awful series of behaviors, this compulsive checking. So just make it be gone, make it go away. It's exhausting. There's something wrong with me. Yeah. And to consider that, like, what makes you think that this is not made of mind? Yeah. Because in the seeing of that there isn't anything that isn't, allows all of it. Mm-hmm. And then we never have to self-manage again. Mm-hmm. You know, like we don't, and we're free to. That's the thing on the end of every sentence. Oh yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. Yep. And it's when we know there isn't anything that's off the table. To me, and it's a word we keep coming back to, that's freedom. Mm-hmm. And when our minds are free, because they're not preoccupied with trying to second guess the words on the page, resist the words on the page, manage the words on the page, fight against them, figure them out, trying to change them, have them be different, hope the next chapter's better than this one. But because of the chapter that happened last time, I know what's coming next, right? And just thinking. When we're more free of that, when we have more freedom of mind, that's the space into which, you know, this whole course is called Love and Understanding, but that's the whole space into which love and understanding comes. Mm-hmm. Like I was listening to a call with Michael Neal yesterday, and I was caught up and preoccupied with something, and I'll just listen to that call, because once that's done, then I can get on to the next thing, right? So it was one of those experiences where I wasn't really listening, but something drew me to listen to it. Yeah. When I got to the end of the call, it was like, gosh, I feel so grateful, because I feel like I've woken up and I didn't realize under what a huge heavy cloud of thinking I was under. Mm. But somehow during that call, like just listening brought a space, and with that simplicity, and with that, instead of a feeling of caught up and need to figure it outness, was a feeling of space and peace and love and understanding, and just nothing to sort out that there had been an hour before. Yeah. Now, the experience before the call and the experience after the call are just different experiences. Yeah. It's not like one is the prize that we're targeting and aiming towards, and yet it is on offer. Mm-hmm. It's so paradoxical. It's the seeing that all of it's allowed that means we're more likely to find ourselves in a space of love and understanding. But it's only really by seeing that we don't have to be there that happens. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, like, what does this help us to, if we think about that kind of experience of love and understanding, and where does that come from? Well, the more caught up in thinking I am, right, the more I'm trying to be the controller, the more I'm unaware of the page in which the words are written on, the more I tend to spend time in thinking of being in lack, in being of problems, in being in how do I figure out, manage, control. Like that takes us away to a degree from being in that space of love and understanding. And the more we become aware of not only the page, but the nature of the page as the controller, it's the thing doing the controlling, it's the thing running the show. Like, it's not up to you or I to be in our heads to figure out the controlling. That's done by the page. Yeah. Now, the more I recognize that for myself,
the more I settled down into a space of love and understanding for a number of reasons. One, beneath the thinking is the space of love and understanding, right? It's what's there before all of that thinking. But you also see the innocence of what people do. Like, they can't do any better than they're doing, right? They're, you know, they may think they can, right? We all think we can, but that's only useful if the thinking is actually the controller. Well, it's not, right? So everything that's going on in the world is still coming, excuse me, from that greater source. No matter how horrible it looks to us, no matter how nasty it looks, but no matter how beautiful it looks to us as well, those are all just experiences anyway. At the end of the day, what's happening is that source is playing the game of being alive. It's playing the game of doing this and doing that. All of it, every last little bit of it is coming from that space. Well, as I see that, no matter how much thinking I have about what somebody does or what's going on in the world, there is this place of love and understanding that kicks in that goes, well, it's all coming from that one source anyway, right? So we're all doing the best we can. Everything is happening exactly the way it is meant to. Even if John's little thinking mind that thinks it runs the show and controls things doesn't like it, it's just an experience that again, that energy is choosing to have through me in that moment. It's not wrong.
But even in that, there's the fundamental thing that you're pointing to there is we've forgotten who we are. Like, we think we are this judging person that has lack and control and blah, blah, blah. And like, if I'm not in control, then that is something else bigger. This unnameable other thing is. Yeah. We forget that unnameable other thing. That's who we really are.
Exactly.
This kind of, oh, I'm Nick and I do this and I'm choosing that. Like, that's an idea after idea after idea arising from the thing that we really are.
That's it.
So it's not even that we're not in control and something else is, but it's fine because it's an intelligence benign force and so it will live us perfectly. When you look even deeper than that, it's like, no, we are there. The idea that other people are doing things right, other people are doing things wrong. No, there's only one thing going on.
There's only one thing.
We are those other people. In truth, we are them.
That's it.
We are just different. We're being born a billion times. Right? As Sarah was saying, it's like, we are the people that we think the worst of. We are them. We are the same thing, just playing out in different forms. And that lends itself to a degree of humility in a way, because as we see that there are 7 billion forms of this one thing playing out, and this one is coming through this experience right now for whatever reason.
Yep.
And that one is playing out that way, and we just forget. We identify with our thinking, the idea that this is who we are, and forget that we are that which is into which all thought comes. Yeah,
the thing is experiencing it is all one thing, no matter how separate it looks. It's one thing experiencing it.
Now we can't understand that without, when we can make up stories about, we can talk about it with our mind and our language, right? Like, we can talk about it, we can point to it, we can try and remember it, we can try and figure that out, we can try and understand it with our minds. It will do nothing, right? It's impossible. But we can know it. And that's different. And the knowing of it is in those moments when we experience, I don't know, like, I always like sitting next to your kids on the sofa, like cuddled up without a word being said, and that feeling of oneness that you have.
Yeah.
Like, that's a knowing of that feeling, isn't the knowing of sitting cuddled up with your kid on the sofa. When you meet that person there, it looks like the sparks coming from within them, right? That's a knowing in your bones of who we really are. So every time you have that sense, you catch those glimpses of beauty, right, in a sunset, or of a rainstorm, or love, or connection, or just after that call listening with Michael, like, just a clearer mind, like that feeling, that is the knowing of who we really are. Not, oh, I know who we really are.
Yeah, not in the mind
it now, but like, there's a knowing in the same way that I know I have two hands. I never have to think about it. I never have to consider it. I never have to remember. I don't have to put post-it notes up to remind myself, thankfully. I don't have to spend time reflecting on it every day. I don't, just every now and again, I notice that I have two hands.
Yeah.
But it's a given. It's a given in my experience. I know it. I know it. If you told me it wasn't true, I know it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what, to get, for me, it was so freeing to get a sense of what knowing versus thinking about something was.
Yeah.
That,
I mean,
that our true self knows itself. And every now and again, our tiny minds get a glimpse of what we actually know to be true.
yeah, as you were talking there, I kept coming back to something from years ago, and I was remembering, you know, when I first met Linda and we were in relationship together, and I was a very busy-minded person, always in my head all the time. And then we would have these moments where I just wasn't in my head, and she wasn't in her head much anyway. And she would acknowledge it, and she would say, you know, hello, you.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't hello you John, you know, my boyfriend at the time, but yeah, it was not that. It was hello you, that is me, that is everyone, that is everything. And it was an experience that was, it was not at all a thinking experience. It was actually just a feeling, a knowing that was there before I had all my ideas of self. And the reason I flag it is because what used to happen to me when she would say that to me was I was terribly scared of that space. And so if she acknowledged that it was there and she would say hello you to me, I would very quickly come out of it, and I'd start thinking about it and going, oh my God, who am I? Can we be together? Is it going to be okay? What's going to happen if I do? Oh my God. And then this disconnection would start to arise. And it's not that we were actually disconnected, but it really appeared to be a disconnection because of how busy my mind then became.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that knowing that there is something there that is what we are, that is beneath this idea of self, to see its nature, right? To just really know it. I mean, this is really about knowing ourselves, this, really.
Yeah.
And to you know, to see that that's actually the key to everything we look for. It's the key to putting everything in life in perspective. We could bang on about this quote for hours. And yet,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and yet it's so simple as well.
yeah. Well, I'm going to read it one more time. I'm going to read it one more time. I know it's lengthy, but given, you know, whatever, you might hear it differently now when you're listening than you did at the beginning. So let me read it again. Everyone originally stems from the I, the truth self, God, soul, or whatever you wish to call it. This source is pure energy. As you appear to yourself, you are a figment of your own imagination. This source creates all of your senses: love, hate, jealousy, sadness. Totally everything is controlled from this source. And if you ever truly realize this, then you, as you know yourself, will become the controller. At this realization, you will know there's no separation between you and the true energy source. We are as one. You will realize also that there is no separation between you and anyone else or any other thing on earth, for we are all the same energy. This is what we call the game of life. Your body is nothing but solidified energy, and when you die, the true you is still the same as ever. Just the body ceases to exist. That is, until you choose another. The difficulty in realizing this is the fact that we must face total fear and be willing to give up our body and life as we now see it. When we do this, we find out that we haven't given up anything at all. We also realize that we've always known this fact. How beautiful to know that we are fear, we are love, we are hate, we are everything which creates us.